Hello, everybody. I am not a candidate. I am not a PAC. I am not a public speaker. I'm just someone who saw a video ad on Facebook recently from Frisco United and was amazed at their advertisement. I'm not endorsing a candidate, but wanted to help educate a bit. Everyone, from my perspective, should go do their own research, and I hope this helps facilitate some of that research. One of the biggest strengths of Frisco is our school district. Our small school model is the reason why many families have moved here. It's also one of the biggest driving factors for increased property values. There's currently an election going on for two school board trustees. The Frisco United, who is a PAC and did the Facebook ad I discussed earlier, continues to spread mistruths and half-truths to spin a narrative to achieve their objectives. They have sent mailers out to stir emotion, trying to scare people with the word Islam, Common Core, and the latest video with shocking texts ranging from fraud, corruption, nepotism, and compares the district to Vladimir Putin and Russia. Does this sound like something that takes place in Frisco? The politics being created has stopping what has been best for our city, our citizens, our students, and begin spinning half-truths and lies to get people, and more importantly, Frisco United's people, elected. First, is there corruption? It's a very strong word to be using here. That's a massive accusation to make. Are there court cases, verdicts, police investigations, police reports? No, wait, there isn't anything. It's one of the very first lies they tell. I wish a few lawsuits would go their direction from some people that have been called out to misspell this misnomer. Please spend a few minutes, Google search. Tell me if you can find anything in here. Now, during the TRE in this election, they've talked about the pay for the superintendent and the contract extension that took place. If we look at and see if anything out of whack, let's compare it to other districts around our area on the exact same size as us. And you'll see the pay scale for our superintendent is exactly right in line, as expected, with every other school district in line. Do we want to hire somebody who's just out of college and maybe just got their doctorate with no experience? Of course not. We want a very good superintendent for our district. We're not paying top dollar. We're not paying bottom dollar either. This is not out of whack, and it's definitely a half-truth, mistruth by Frisco United. So next thing to come up with is the budget surplus, right? That we miraculously have all this extra money now that we weren't planning on because they were hiding it from us. They were intentionally trying to have this conspiracy with us that we're going to have this extra money, and they really wanted all that TRE money to do whatever they wanted with their nefarious needs, right? Wrong. So what they don't tell you is where this money actually came from. And if you follow this link to page 13, we discuss specifically how that money came into existence. So $8 million came in from a higher enrollment factor, right? For every student we have that attends school, we get more money from the state. That's one area. Next area was $9.9 million from state true-up from previous year's financing transfer. This is a one-year item. We're not going to get this year over year. Yes, it's a surplus for this year, but it's not going to continue on down the road on 17, 18, 19, 2020. $5.6 million came from higher projected rollback of taxes, penalties, interest from people who missed their taxes, miscellaneous revenue, including sporting event tickets and rental of gymnasiums, things that Frisco United was already pushing for. This was already a surplus. This was always budgeted in accordance with best practices of a conservative number. There's nothing new here. $6 million in retirement funds paid by the state versus the district. This was unexpected. This won't have a positive effect on the budget, though, because those funds were used on other expenditures, such as that higher expected enrollment that we had, right? The old saying, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So next up, they talk about wasteful spending. We've already talked about the superintendent. They bring up nepotism again. They bring up the building, the administration building. First, Dr. Ellen and her cushy job that they all talk about, that's nepotism. She's a teacher at Lone Star High School. That is the cushy job that she has. Not just any teacher. She's, of course, teaching biology and is the chair for the science organization, which means all the work she has to put in above her normal work to help all the other teachers out as well. She is qualified, possibly even overqualified for the job. She shows up every day and educates our kids to the best of her ability and helps all the other teachers on her team be better teachers. Now, nepotism basically says the practice of those with power and influence, favoring relatives and friends over those who are probably more qualified. Does that sound like what's happening here? This is absolutely not nepotism. It is a flat-out lie by Frisco United, and they absolutely owe the city of Frisco, and they owe Dr. Lyons and Dr. Ellen Lyons an apology. Now let's talk about that administrative building that they talked about. First, the administrative building was voted on by the people in 2014. We, everybody who lives here, voted on that building in 2014. The budget, the size, everything. The bond also included 14 other schools in the district. Now it talks about funding for a minute. Texas funding is a little complicated. There are two buckets you can do things with. One bucket is IS, which is all about the bonds to build these big schools. And the other is for M&O, that's operations. That's what the TRE was about. M&O is used for things to operate schools, the biggest thing, of course, being teacher pay. There is a lot of mistruths that were spread about this funding and how this administrative building could have been used for helping the teachers. No, it actually can't. Texas funding doesn't work that way. And again, something Frisco United absolutely knows about, but doesn't talk about. So now they also talk about the number of people in admin making $100,000 a year and the 4 schools. So let's get into each one of those here for a minute. Is 65 people making $100,000 a year out of whack? Is that wrong, or is this something to pull on your emotional heartstrings? And there's a good way to track this. Those administrative costs are actually tracked by the Texas Education District. So let's look at the same schools that are similar sized through Texas, and let's see how they spend. Oh, wait, we use 1.8% of our budget on the general administration budget and those people. 1.8. If you look at everybody else, we are by far cheaper and spend less per student on our administrative costs. Does that $100,000 sound important? Notice they put no scale around that number. They don't say, oh, look what Louisville's doing. Oh, look what Garland's doing, or Richardson, or Plano. Of course not, because then that number is out of whack and shows them in the positive light. If they don't back it up with facts, what's the point? Now last, the biggest lie of all, the 4 schools that are not needed. That is the biggest lie of that whole entire video, and they know it. Because the reason why there's no 4 schools opening this year is because their big push to get rid of the TRE didn't allow for the M&O budget to support the new teachers and the operating costs to maintain that school. Are we not using it? No, that's not true. For 1 year, we are not using it until we can come up with the correct funding sources by other cuts in other areas. This is causing schools to cause redistricting, larger classes, and other extreme cost measures to take place. More importantly, in many schools, you'll start seeing portable buildings being used. I, for one, do not want my kid in a portable building. This is being done with a joint partnership with Frisco ISD. The citizens all got together with these cost-setting measures. We already talked about the different buckets of IS and M&O. The schools were built already because they were part of the bond election we already did. We do need these schools. Would they be 100% capacity what day they opened? No, of course not. No school should ever be that way. We should never have schools at 100% capacity. They should be running at 80% capacity, leaving growth for ebbs and flows as the population changes. They may have funds available now because of the 1 year budget surplus we have, but again, we can't expect that revenue year over year moving forward. It's a short-term gap problem that we have to solve. Now, there may be some cost savings we can actually put in place. Absolutely. That's part of finances. There are things that we may decide we don't want to spend. Snowden, in several of his Nextdoor posts, in his Facebook posts, talks about the data processing fees or data processing costs that are out of whack compared to our neighboring districts, significant other. So what data processing is this is a technology bucket. Everything that is computers or technology based that our kids use, that the teachers use, and the administration uses falls in this bucket. Now, I understand we overspend in a few areas, and the 2 main areas we do overspend on is that technology bucket and the extracurricular sports and theater and acting buckets. Those are 2 areas we should be overspending on. Those are what creates well-rounded students. I want my kids taking part of those technology trends. I want my kids to be able to, again, small school model, if they want to go play for soccer, go do soccer. If they want to do football, go let them do football. Because we have these smaller schools, there are more opportunities for our kids to get these well-rounded achievements. It's going to make them better adults as they grow up. Again, I'm not recommending akin it to you. What I'm telling you is do your own research. There are so much mistruths out there from various people, and hey, some of my data might be wrong. I don't believe so. I've done enough research on it. I believe it's correct. But do your research. Tell me what I'm wrong on. Tell Frisco United what they're wrong on. You'll see that they'll delete their posts if you disagree with them and come back with facts. They have a long history of deleting posts. They do not want a conversation to take place. They want to control the narrative. Why are people believing this without doing their research? So again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I do not work for the city or the ISD. I'm not a public speaker. As you can hear, probably the 1,000 speaking mistakes I've made here. But I'm telling you now, do your research, please. Thank you.